You're watching the Tesla Live with your host, Mark Conlon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Live number 350. Here we are on the 13th of March, 2024. Winter is almost over. Next week, guys. Next week. Welcome, everyone. Glad you can join us. Yeah, as you can see, we've got a little bit of technical difficulty. Our friend Patrick, friend Patrick is not on screen with his camera. We'll just try to work on that, see if anything can be updated. But you did hear him at the opening, so he's with us.
Yes,
I'm here.
There's the box. There's the box. Exactly. Well, Patrick, introduce yourself while you're not on camera.
Hello, Tesla Nation. I have two quick shout outs to do at the top of the show. First, I want to give a shout out to my friend Glenn, who just ordered a Model Y. He'll be joining Tesla Nation. He'll soon be one of us. Thanks, Glenn. And he's over in the Northeast. He's closer to you guys than to me. Okay. It's okay. The atmosphere doesn't care where your lack of tailpipe is. As long as you're not emitting, it's good for everybody. And then my second shout out, I was going to show it on screen, but I can't. It's the Net Zero app. This is a cool little app that I stumbled on, and it shows you a lot of cool information about your Tesla Powerwall and solar, or it also supports in-phase. And it has some features that I kind of wish the Tesla app had, where you can see multiple views all on one screen, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, if you're inclined, if you have a Powerwall, or it works with any of the Tesla's products, but I think it's especially good if you have solar and Powerwall.
Excellent. We will check those out, and if you out there pick those up, give us a review. Let us know how you like to use the app.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
With that, we of course also have Mr. Case Green joining us from the Mid-Atlantic region. How are you today, sir?
Doing all right. Been an adventurous day, but here we go.
Yes, indeed. We're on our way. Oh, Patrick's got the box back, so he's working on it, people. He's working on it. That's right. Let's get into the news, because we got a lot of it, as per usual. And our first story we wanted to talk a little bit about was, this was encouraging news. The Biden administration apparently has put the word out to the other manufacturers of EVs and have actually prompted them about what's going on with charging standards. When the Biden administration put the current, tax credits in place for charging infrastructure, the rules were you had to have at least one CCS cord at least one CHAdeMO and CCS as well. Now, since that was introduced over a year ago, we are now at the point where almost every single automotive manufacturer has switched over to the NACS plug. So the Biden administration...
Just VinFast, they don't count.
Well, I said almost.
All the majors.
I said almost.
You did.
So
it's their own fault. They should be here by now.
I don't know what VinFast is doing. That makes no sense to me, especially since in North America, all they're introducing are EVs. They don't have an excuse. So maybe someone's never got the memo at VinFast, or they're asleep at the switch. I'm not sure. But at least the Biden administration is reaching out and talking to the other manufacturers of vehicles and asking about the new charging standard, what's going on, and whether or not the current rules need to be modified a little bit as they start to roll out these credits for charging stations. They want to understand if it makes maybe more sense to eliminate or add to what they already have written down before these chargers start to be installed in earnest. And that's great to hear, I believe, because it indicates that at least somebody is paying attention as to what's going on in the real world. And you would hate to waste, especially taxpayer money, on putting out charging stations that would maybe be irrelevant after a year, maybe not work for the vehicles that are charging there. So it's good to see that they're actually asking again. Let's kind of round everyone's opinions at this point and make sure as to what the writing is and what makes most sense.
Good thing that they're asking. It shows that they are not completely asleep at the switch. However, at this point in time, over 60% of deployed EVs already have the NACS port, and when we say 99.999% of the EVs deploying next year and onward are going to have the NACS port. So this is kind of a waste of time with this RFI. Now, unless that's exactly the process they have to do to be able to make the declaration, okay, fine. But at this point, it's just performative BS. Like, they just do it already. Like, nobody else is stuck on this except VinFast and a handful of truck makers that are not using MCS. And by truck, I mean commercial trucks. I'm not talking pickup trucks. The pickup trucks are NACS.
Yeah, and it's I think, Casey, that it's probably something that it's a formality that they have to.
Yeah, if it's a formality, I'm fine.
But I also believe that there should be some really informed input at this point. Now that we're in the 11th hour of rolling out NACS, I think all the manufacturers should be just saying, listen, you know what? Maybe we should change all the rules to drop CHAdeMO completely, and relegate that there has to be, 10% or 20% CCS chargers, and everything else can be NACS, just because of the sheer volume of NACS vehicles that are going to start flowing in starting in 2025.
What I think would be most inclusive for them would be to do one charger with CHAdeMO, one charger that can be switched out later, one charger with CCS that are not on the same head. They're not, 'cause you can have two on most of these installs.
Yeah.
You don't want the two people with the odd man out to be stuck waiting on each other. So one on each, and then put the rest as NACS. And then, because you've got adapters coming for free for most automakers. Even Stellantis, who's allergic to saying the word Tesla, almost more so than the administration themselves were. They said Tesla one time in almost 4 years, and with that, you've got the case where we don't know that a Stellantis vehicle can use a supercharger that doesn't have Magic Dock. And so you can't say, oh, it's the Tesla thing. It's the industry thing. It's J3400, or which is a stupid name, call it JNACS because that sounds better, and call it a day. But like you said, if it's a formality, I get it. It makes sense. But if it's not a formality, then they're just wasting time. They're 4 states that have deployed NEVI already?
Yep. Yeah. And there's a number of projects that are underway, right? Alaska's building stations now. But there needs, certainly, I don't mind it if it's trying to shore up where we are today. Like, the worst possible thing is to just plow ahead with what you planned a year and a half ago, not understanding that you're going to have issues with connectivity because the whole industry has done an about face in basically 9 months.
They can see this with their own vehicles that they purchased. Look at the post office. They bought all these CCS1 vehicles and started to deploy them. And oh shoot, the people who make our vehicle is switching to NACS.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Fords here, not the Oshkosh. I don't know what they're doing with their Duckmobile. Anyone seen one? Other than the prototype?
Nope.
Just pictures.
It's a fictitious vehicle at this point.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
The payments they received are probably not fictitious.
That part.
That is absolutely true.
So before we change topics, I don't know where we are on that. It feels like we might be doing that soon. What about the Koreans and Singapore and everybody else that uses J1772 and CCS1? We haven't heard anything about them.
Interesting.
No,
yeah.
There hasn't been anything on them. They haven't said anything.
Right.
Really precarious position to be in. You'll have to switch to NACS or switch to CCS2 because it's going to be really difficult to keep those factories open unless you want to use all surplus parts.
You're on an abandoned standard. It's time to take the jump and go to something better.
And they're kind of in, I guess it really depends on how many vehicles they sell in North America, which is, quite sizable, I would say. But it's also a question of what are they doing in their home country. And
that's what I'm saying is, what are they doing at home? Because in North America, they've all committed to switch.
Right.
So where it is in their home country, what do you think is the most logical thing for them to do?
Well, I mean, they're already running a North American grid. Otherwise, they would have not done, CCS1 and J1772. So at that point, I would say it would be logical just to switch out the handles for, the NACS low voltage and the NACS DC connections. Or if they want you to be able to travel across the mega continent, Europe and Asia, switch to CCS2, because that's what they're using everywhere but China.
Yeah.
Right. Either one of those would make sense.
And China coming to their thing.
And they might just be waiting to make the decision to see if things really. Press releases are easy, but are they? Is the actual follow through going to happen next year?
Right. I mean, I would imagine that if you call your supplier up and be like, "Hey, we need you to move the pins a couple millimeters and give us CCS2 instead of CCS1," there'd probably be a change fee, but they could probably oblige that. But at the same time, NACS is so much cheaper to implement that you're already making it for North America. You just ship a couple of them over to South Korea instead of to California or Kentucky or wherever.
Yeah, well, at some point it may make sense because they are implementing it in North America, and economics, work better when it's volume. So it might make more sense as time goes along if they could push local government to switch over, and all these other manufacturers that are operating in North America could, switch over to NACS in their home country.
They charge your non-Tesla. Anybody in the audience or anybody who's not speaking at the moment, if you don't mind looking and seeing if the NACS superchargers in those countries in Asia that use NACS, do they have the charge your non-supercharger open there? Because that might give us an indication that's already a significant network right there. And then they will probably just kind of bully them around like they did over here. And hey, local supplier 1 and local supplier 2 have decided to put our handle on there.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll see. And of course, this picture is going to get a little bit clearer because at the end of this month, I believe Rivian is going to do the switch over to allow some of their clients to access the NACS network, as well as GM is indicating that they are going to be ready by the end of the month. Although neither have announced about the actual adapter device. So but whether it's free, where it's coming from, how long it'll take to get it, all those things are kind of open.
Right. Rivian has pushed the update to the fleet already. I don't know if your car necessarily has it, but it's available, and they're probably doing the same thing. They deploy very similar to Tesla in waves. Ford has already shipped theirs, free shipping and free 1 per VIN. So they're starting to show up all around the nation, and this is exciting. And I don't know what GM's deal is. They haven't said anything about the update except that Tesla's already confirmed that all these manufacturers who joined the coalition are going to need an update before their cars will be authorized. And in fact, our friend Kyle Connor, he tried a Volvo or Polestar, I believe, with the Ford adapter, and it was denied. And then they tried a Ford with a third-party adapter, and it worked. PSA, if you use a third-party adapter, make sure that it's rated to match what your vehicle can handle at the maximum. You've now installed a fuse in between the supercharger and your vehicle. And if your vehicle asks for more and the supercharger says, okay, here you go, it could be
poof,
fire, or you could high voltage DC.
Yeah, I just recommend you just sit back and wait till the manufacturer officially tells you can do it, and here's the device to use it. That would make more sense to me.
If you try it on a manufacturer that doesn't have the update, it won't do anything. But say you're like number 9,000 in line with Rivian, and you have a manufacturer who you can trust. It's not authorized with Tesla, but they have no way of knowing. But however, if you get like a $5 deal, you know that you're putting people potentially in serious danger.
Yeah, and property. Yeah.
Yes. And Tesla will get their money back from you if you burn their supercharger.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll come after you. So be aware. Be aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like JT's comment there. Yeah, I wish Chatamo cars had gotten adapters to NACS too. And
well, on that same vein, you can get the CCS1 or CCS2 third-party adapter, and then you can get the.
I don't think you should be daisy chaining
double and
adapters.
triple adapters. Yeah.
Again, I don't endorse that, but logically, it should work.
Right. I don't know if that's ever been load tested.
You go to trunk and you got this 6-foot long crazy adapter hose that you got to plug in. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun at a charger. Although that would eliminate the having to get close to the charger. That would completely eliminate that.
You've inadvertently solved the length problem.
Chatamo cars have the charge port in either the rear left, like Teslas do, or in the nose. So
like the Leaf. Yeah, that's not a bad spot. There's certainly worse places they could have that charging port.
The rear right or the front or the front left.
Yeah, just take 2 parking spots and you'll be fine. That's really the recommended method. Yes, because it's all that works until we get to another story later.
Exactly. Next, let's talk a little bit about Franz and Lars, or Lars and Franz are here to pump you up. They certainly put together a great little video that Tesla published out of their Hawthorne design studio recently. And we'll have the link down below if you want to go watch that. I certainly recommend you do. It was similar to the Jay Leno thing, except they had more relevant questions because they asked the audience to send them questions on X. Although there were a number of repeats at the end, the first number of questions were good. And I love the banter between Franz and Lars as they were going through the different components of the Model 3, the new Model 3, how it compared to the old Model 3, some differences, some issues that they had seen in the older car, and how did they try to correct them in a newer car. They even talked about, tire width and what the new wheels were designed for, how the hood has been just bent up slightly near the wipers, and that improves so much of the aerodynamics of the car, as well as noise reduction in the cabin. Just by that slight bend in the hood up near the wipers, air would just flow, get bumped up, and miss a lot of the windshield and go over top of the car at the right angle, giving it a better coefficient. And again, no noise or less noise in the cabin. So very good walkthrough, I thought. And it was a pleasure to watch the 25 minute video, I thought.
Yeah, I would have preferred 45 minutes to an hour, but yeah.
Mr. Longform wanted more, yeah. Yeah, I like the video too. And it was, so those roles that they have in other companies are often at odds with each other. It's like, you designed this, I have to build that. Why'd you make my life difficult? This is hell. And they you could tell these guys got along and they really worked well together. And by understanding what the other person is trying to get to and working together, you can get a much better design than if it's this confrontational thing. So that was just the relationship between those two I thought was cool. Yeah, siloed is very common in a lot of corporate American companies. And, I do this, you do that, and product be damned. I got my part done. And so that relationship was, I think, is a big part of Tesla's success.
Hey, could you chamfer that corner at 15 degrees instead of 30? It would save us millions of dollars in construction.
You could see it when they were talking about the tires. Like, okay, they each had aspects of it that they was it the stance, was it the look, was it the profile, and they collaborated to get that just right.
Yeah, Franz is like, don't make it ugly, and Lars is like, make it cheap, make it easy, and they
Yeah, it was interesting that they talked about the standard tires on the 3 even now have a little bit more of a bubble, which I felt was kind of a mistake on the original Model 3 because the rims would curb really easy. If you got if your rim looked at the curb, it would scuff. But they actually have now a little bit of a bubble on the tire sidewall, so the tire can touch the curb a little bit and protect the rim a bit. It's not as protected as I would still like to see it, but it is something that they took into consideration, and this is one of the many changes that they made to the car, as well as interior. A great little segment about the trunk, even about increasing some storage space by moving a subwoofer. So a lot of stuff where they're going into detail as to why these things happened and what was the thought and reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And now you guys know what to get Mark for his birthday, some rash guards for his rim.
Where do you think those hubcaps came from?
Exactly. Another story. This is kind of surprising, I thought. Tesla has been, I don't know, it's not officially from them, but this story from Inside EVs indicates that they believe that Tesla is manufacturing some extension cables, NACS-To-NACS adapters. And I don't know about you two, but I'm thinking that this may not be real popular with many people, just because I don't think people plan ahead for this type of thing in most cases. I think that people kind of are reactionary. They go on a long road trip. They now have access to the Tesla chargers. They feel that the two that they visited in all their visits previously, everything worked out great. So they're thinking it's going to be fine. And then they head on a trip across multiple states and they figure out that, gee, a lot of Tesla supercharger locations aren't the same as the one that's near my house.
Until they get to an angled reverse in, well, Tesla's nose in, but they'll have to reverse in. And if the angle is opposite of the direction of travel, those are going to be fun for them.
But if this is true and Tesla is designing this extension cord, I think it's a good idea. Although I would like Tesla to maybe retrofit a number of supercharger cables that they already have. And I realize that's a cost to them. I get that.
It's a cost. Like, where are you going to put it? Like, literally, the way that it's designed now, it's going to just flop onto the ground because of the extra weight.
Well, I think that that they could add like a foot to 2 feet of length and have it loop in front of the actual cabin and still not be on the ground and not inside the red half circle, half moon that's in there.
Although if they put them on magic docks, that will hold it a little more securely since it's holding it on all the pins.
The security of the actual handle is questionable. I understand that. In fact, in a stiff wind, sometimes they come dislodged and fall to the ground on their own. So that is not a good scenario if you add extra cable length, which of course would add weight. So I get that. But I am kind of disappointed in the number of version 4 chargers that we see being installed. Like it really has not happened in earnest. There are a few out there. There's obviously some of them are working, as with Casey and Patrick in their neck of the woods, but there's still a ton of version 3s being spooled up online. Closest being to my house. Those are version 3s, and they were not put in too long ago. So this move to V4 really is underwhelming at this point. Not sure why. Maybe it's Tesla has bought a bazillion parts and they're going to use them. Maybe that's the case. Not really sure as to what that would be.
I suspect the reason we haven't seen Buffalo and Shanghai switch to the prefab V4 pedestals is because there's no V4 cabinet yet. And I guess they keep whatever's holding them back. They must think it's really close, and they don't want to commit to that. And then
that's a valid point because of course those the current V4s, they're not running at V4 speeds or what would be suspected that V4 speeds will be. They're just running at V3 speeds, aren't they?
Correct.
So that's quite plausible, Casey, that maybe they believe the cabinets are going to be done soon, or the part that's holding them up, they're waiting.
Yeah. Another thing with this extension is Elon promised my friend Sergio that the adapter would not be the part that slows you down in the charging. to make that same commitment.
Yeah,
would
that's
require,
not going to apply here.
Right, it would require quite an overspec. You'd be looking at like a 20-pound cable, it's like this long, to be able to make that same promise. So I'm curious how they handle it, and what do you do if you're, say, let's call the Lightning, since that's the one that has some of the hardest time lining up right now. You've got a Lightning and you've got the cable. Do you make the choice of using your cable because that's the only spot open, or you get to a spot and it's mostly empty when you get there, but people start showing up? Do you drop down from using 2 stalls to using 1 stall, but now you're going to take twice as long, even though now there's a line forming behind you?
Yeah. Patrick, what do you think? Minimum length of an extension cord should be to pretty well match what's out there? How many feet?
Yeah, I don't think so. Like Casey was saying, the longer you make it, the more resistance, the more heat, the more it's going to slow you down, the more it costs too. So I think they're going to try to be reasonable and only go with maybe like a meter. I don't think it's going to be too long. This is a lot of current flowing through that high voltage. So keeping it short is really helpful. I do think there's a market for these.
Oh, yes.
If you're towing, I think you will be thinking ahead and you will buy it ahead of time. That's certainly one of the use cases. Or if you have a non-Tesla where the charging port's in a weird spot, and this cable allows you to park without taking 2 spots. I think that's another one where people might be likely to think ahead and buy it.
Yeah. I was wondering if they would do just a one-size-fits-all, and like Patrick said, it'd be like a meter and a half, maybe 2. Or if they would say, same way that you're picking your non-Tesla when you register in the app, where you tell them what you have, and they say, all right, this is F-150. Oh, and it also works for the Chevrolet, and then this is for the Mustang and the Nero. I'm just throwing names out there. Don't say that they would work. So to keep both their costs down and your costs, and I don't know if they would then say, just one price across the board and they just eat it, or if they say, all right, the Lightning will cost this much and the Nero costs this much because of how much cable we needed, because that's a lot of copper. Right.
They might do 2 versions, and just have a list of the short one works with these vehicles, the long one these vehicles require the long one. That's 2 meters.
Yeah,
right.
Could be
easy customer education is underneath saying selecting too long a cable is going to slow your charging down by a lot.
Yeah.
And they don't have to pay how much, just a lot.
Yeah. Well, this will be interesting to see if they actually do come out with the proposed extension and how, if there will be multiple lengths or just one. But we will see shortly, I believe, because of course.
Well, but again, can't recommend it. Not that they do bad work, just it's not authorized. They don't know.
Yeah, that's you take your life into your own hand and your wallet into your own hand if something does happen. So
people will go like this.
Yeah,
You'll be on your own.
Keep that in mind. I wanted to share a little photo here that we got a nice little photo of this. This, of course, is PrufRock 3 at Giga Texas. And you can see in the background, as the sun's setting here, you can see the trailers. This is their mobile warehouse, wherever they can park trailers. And in front, we've got PrufRock aiming at Gigafactory, which is in front of this picture, on the other side of the highway that's between these 2 pieces of land. So the thought is that PrufRock is going to start digging and pop up inside the south end. I believe it's the south end of Gigafactory, Texas. And this is going to allow them to actually deliver cars without having to go a long distance, because as Texas spools up and is producing more and more millions and millions of cars, they don't want them driving in some sort of loop to go around the highway, even though they have a fairly short loop to do so. They would much rather have a direct line into the waiting parking lot where they can be all picked up by the semi-trailers and delivered to customers. But what I found interesting here is I've only been thinking in 2 dimensions when it comes to this tunnel. Someone had pointed out previously that as Tesla spools up and they are producing more and more cars from multiple lines, they may stack 2 or 3 tunnels on top of each other or within close proximity. And they would have the ability at any point to add a tunnel if volume dictates it. So this may not just be a single tunnel. Of course, the first one will be, but they will have the ability and the experience to push it further by maybe stacking the tunnels on top of them. If the highway department doesn't want them to put another line underneath it, maybe they can just go underneath the first boring tunnel and put a second or a third. Because with, of course, the Boring Company being part of Elon Musk's companies, they can experiment a little here and see what works best for them. And that's something I had not considered.
That is pretty cool. It's neat to see things that are just, not doing it the same old way. Like, we need to get from here to there. What about going underground? Let's try it.
Exactly. Another thing that they've done with Prufrock 3, Prufrock 3 is supposed to be faster than 2. And of course, they had some issues with 2 and were able to iron it out with the new design. One other thing that I've heard is that the tunnel segments in Prufrock 2's tunnels, they have somewhat unique walls, that they have certain pieces that go in a certain direction, certain way to form the tunnel. Apparently, with this new tunnel, they've got segments that are the exact same size and dimension at all times. So they're going to be able to produce segments quicker and not worry about them being out of order or having to come to the site in a certain order, because all the segments are the same size and dimension. So that's going to improve the speed of development for these tunnels.
Absolutely. And that's what you get when you iterate, right? So I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about nuclear reactors of all things. And they said in the US, every one of them is a snowflake. They're all unique and different. And so it was never, let's take this design and iterate on it and learn how to build it cheaper and do more and more. It was, let's do everyone custom. And so here, this is the perfect example of, they've been doing tunnels. They figured out some things. They've figured out how to make it better, faster, cheaper. And if you keep iterating like that, you're actually going to get to a point where you can build layers and layers of these tunnels effectively, cost effectively, and to get something done, instead of everything being the big dig and a government project that takes decades and
billions.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this will be cool. They have been building Prufrock or putting Prufrock 3 together on site now for a number of weeks, and they're actually hooking up the external conveyor belts and such that's going to pull out the spoilage, the loose dirt from the machine and put it into a certain section. And of course, they've got the cement mixers on site to design or to have the mortar available for in between some of the segments, the tunnel segments. And of course, the segments are starting to line up on the outside as well. So this should be a go pretty soon. And the construction on the other side where this is going to pop out, they've built an extension onto Giga Texas, and it looks like this tunnel aligns directly into that new segment. So the thought, or we're guessing, it's going to actually tunnel up into the new section. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any of that, because of course the roof is now starting to close in on the new section. So we're going to have limited views as to what is happening once Prufrock heads underground on the other side of the highway. There is a possibility that it could pop up under cover of a roof that we'll never see. But if they get going shortly, we might have a chance of seeing it pop up, but we will see.
Did we mention that it was a continuous process where it doesn't pause in between the putting the walls up and then moving forward to the next step and extracting the rock and rubble? Right. Well, that of course is that of course is what they want to happen. I know with Prufrock 2 that was supposed to happen, but it didn't.
So there were issues with Prufrock 2. And as Patrick said, with iterations, sometimes you're kind of surprised as to what comes up with those modifications, either good or bad, because you're moving at a speed that you've never done before. So there is a possibility that you're going to have to deal with new situations that may not be expected. So next, let's move on to the yes. What's with Cybertruck? Cybertruck is starting. Speaking of Texas, Cybertruck is starting to ramp up a little bit. Okay, we're now seeing drone photos of over 100 vehicles a day showing up in the different lots that are for testing of the trucks and then ultimately for shipment of those trucks. Joe Tegmeyer has a great channel. You may want to check that out with daily flights or every second day flights over Giga Texas. And he's kind of keeping track of the swell of Cybertrucks that are starting to come out of it. And what we've noticed most recently is that Tesla is now providing some avenues for people to get a Tesla Cybertruck a little bit quicker than the regular group that is sitting there. So this particular article indicated that they are now reaching out to people that are long-time Tesla shareholders and giving them the ability to order a Foundation series. So that kind of tells me that with that, and of course with the points that you could give to get an early spot as well, maybe Tesla's starting to ramp up a little bit. Maybe they've got a good amount of Cybertrucks that they're starting to roll out, and they're pulling some levers here to get some more orders in quickly to disperse to people. So that's a good sign based on what we see from Joe Tegmeyer and what we're seeing here with some levers being pulled and some options that are being given for people to get an early Cybertruck. This may be a good sign to see that they're starting to ramp up a little bit.
That would be frustrating if you put your name in on the reservation list. I don't know how long ago the Cybertruck reveal event was, and now they come out and they say, "Oh, if you're a shareholder, you can cut in line." That's got to be a little frustrating.
Well, it's also probably something to do, Patrick, with a number of people are giving up their spot because they're not going to pay the extra money for
the
foundation, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I would hope that's the case, that they're only doing this because they've offered the Foundation series to current reservation holders, and they said, no, I'd rather wait for the regular vehicle. And so now they're offering this to more people. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I hope it's not the other way, because you're right. If you are waiting for a Foundation series and you've already ordered it, they should be looking to fulfill your order, not necessarily find other people to cut in front of you. So that is definitely something that I hope is the case. Mm-hmm. If any of you out there have any insights into this, please feel free to send us a note in the notes below. Let us know what you think or what you know about this.
Especially if you're a shareholder and took advantage of this offer, I'd like to hear how that process went. I think you have to send them a statement from last month showing that you have so many shares and all that. So I'm curious how the process goes. Yeah.
Next, this is something that we've talked about on this show a few times about the National Transportation Safety Board, about them announcing recalls for Tesla that turn out to basically be a software update that is sent in. And we've talked about maybe having the code rewritten so that some of these things don't have to be, put out as a recall and get this in the mail and have to look at it and say, well, my car did this 3 weeks ago on its own. What do I care?
Right. Yeah, I received 2 of those in the mail, and I'm like, what's the point of this? It was just a waste of money. Did the update happen a month ago, and now you're sending me a letter? How many of those did they have to mail out? And how much did that cost the government, or which really comes down to the taxpayers?
Yeah, so there were some anecdotes of folks who weren't as dialed in. They weren't following all this stuff. They got the update, they installed it, and then they get the letter, a month later, and they're like, "There's an update," and it says I have to do an update, and I don't see one. What do I do? Now I got to call Tesla, but they don't have phones.
Right.
Yeah. So this is something that a petition has been put together to send to the NHTSA to stop calling certain recalls that are over-the-air updates as recalls. They're looking to eliminate some of this redundancy, and it's an alert that comes to people that kind of dulls their sense of what they have to do or want to do, because as Patrick has mentioned, some people would receive the update and go, well, this is garbage, it's already happened, why would I even look at this? And then maybe the next time they're not as keen to look at the thing that comes to them in the mail, because they believe that the last 3 times it's been just an over-the-air update, so I'm just ignoring this stuff.
Right. They cry wolf once
really, it says, hey, stop driving, your axle's gonna fall off.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's part 2 right there. But part 1 is to not even waste our time with the letters. Part 2 is to stop calling it recall. If it's that simple and light, call it something else.
Yeah, did this petition suggest a better name?
I didn't see a name.
No.
I signed it because the concept was sound.
Yeah, because that's part of it. We need a better name, even if it's just categories of recall.
And that was one thing they said. It's like, hey, if it's recall level, call it one thing, and if it's just another monthly update, like a security patch for your phone or computer, just call it something like that, something a little more light, like, hey, you do this at your leisure, or hey, stop your trip and install this now, or you're going to get hacked, or the car's going to burn up, or whatever.
Well, and that's the other thing is that it's not like with Tesla. It's not like you have to request the update or the patch to come your way. It just shows up. Like it's you can't deny it. It just happens. I guess you could deny it by disconnecting Wi-Fi for a while, but eventually you're going to get the patch anyways. So that's
and then for the folks with MCU1 and really old cars who tried it, they get to a point where Tesla says, all right, your car is unsupported for failure to do your part. You bring it in, we will hook a laptop up to it, charge you for the ban hours to have to hook a laptop up to it, push the update, and then we will get on to fixing what you were here for in the first place.
Yeah. So there's no fooling around. They want everyone on the most recent update possible. And that, of course, is to save them trouble down the road when they're servicing vehicles. They don't want 12 million vehicles with different parts of the code in place when they would much rather have everyone up to a certain level so that everything's operating from a flat playing field for service. Yeah,
it's frustrating if you get a customer service call or ticket or whatever, and you spend I don't know how long figuring it out, and you're like, oh, that's a known bug. It was fixed in this version of software, and yeah, exactly. And so you're just behind on your software, and yet I had to go through all this troubleshooting to figure that out for you.
Just keep it up to date. Lars gave a perfect example of that. I don't know if it was on X or if it was on the video, where the early cars in Norway got them to invent or deploy, I should say, not actually invent, deploy disc brake wiping. So that way your brakes don't rust prematurely and then have other problems happen. And so they learned that in Norway. They put it out to those cars, and the newer cars, it comes from the factory that way. But the old cars, in some update, they just kind of slipped it in there.
Yeah. No, makes sense. So if you would like to sign this petition, there's a link to the article, and you can get to that and let your voice be heard as well. Next, let's get on to, yes, this is a bit of a depressing story, but we talked last week about this arson that happened at Giga Berlin, and we talked the week before about a bunch of eco warriors that are camping out in the forest in trees, trying to prevent
people that are giving eco terrorists a bad name.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hard to do.
and then we've got different groups that are claiming responsibility, as well as they're telling us that we should be striking. We should be disrupting the factory. We should be forcing them to dismantle the factory and go elsewhere. Like, this is ridiculous stuff. But this is where we're at with Gigafactory Berlin. I'm really surprised. I'd be interested to know what type of what the amount of people in the local economy really believe about this. Are these just hooligans that have shown up and are planting their flag on this, that this is their issue, and most people are quite happy with what's going on? Or is there more discontent in this county than we're aware of? Because the issues here seem to be compounding. And the story we have here is that Elon was making his way over to Giga Berlin today, and actually had a rally with the employees to try to raise their spirit, to let them know that he's behind them. He wants the factory to continue and to expand. He believes the people of Germany are behind them as well. But these eco-terrorists are just giving Tesla a black eye for a reason that really, when you look at it, is kind of wrong. It's something that they're claiming is happening really is not happening. They claim about the cardboard forest being cut down, but they don't talk about the hardwood trees that have been replanted in even more plentiful amounts in order to write that requirement. They don't talk about the cardboard forest that was just there to make pulp and paper. Like, it really was going to be cut down anyways. So this is really kind of strange.
Yeah. So on Sunday's chat, we went into this a little bit more because I was just frustrated with what was going on. It's like, yeah, to get to the bottom. It's what the heck is going on here? They keep claiming the water problems, and we already knew about the cardboard forest and all the endangered species and blah blah blah. The water use they're complaining about is the sewer output. And then you're like, well, Tesla claims they're doing 100% recycling of the factory process, right? They are. The sewer input is coming from the restroom and kitchen facilities. You've got 12,000 people and however many kitchens, and they're using the sewer pipe as expected. And they've been advertising this whole time as if Tesla was direct dumping into the river, and really they're dumping into the sewer pipe, into the waste treatment facility, who's then not able to keep up with that many bodies. This was a depressed area, I think super rural and poor, kind of like coal country here, or the Rust Belt, but never had a factory. And so this area, they didn't have a lot of well-paying jobs, and so they had a lot of people who were either permanently unemployed or cyclically, temporarily unemployed. And so this area has never had this many people come into one building like this before. And basically, if you had an office building with that many kitchens and that many employees, and all they did was like push paper, it would have the same problem. Exactly. And now, obviously, if they had another industry, it could be whatever processes on top, whereas Tesla their process isn't going out into the sewer. It's recycled.
Yeah, it's interesting. Shout out to Brian and Paul in the chat. This is something that we can see that Tesla has bent over backwards, trying to win over the community with open houses, with description of what they're doing and how they're doing it, and trying to reduce even like truck traffic. Trying to reduce it by putting a rail link in to it to even deliver employees from downtown Berlin. So it's something that they're really trying to win them over, because of course they believe that the factory is doing well. It's producing the type of volumes they want, and in fact they want to increase that. So it's really really strange. I'd really like to know the eco warriors. Are they really from the area, or is this just a group of people that latch onto an issue anywhere in the country and then set up their forced cities to prevent people from doing things?
Yeah, I do want to point out there was some chat in the chat about truck traffic. Yes, there is more truck traffic than was there before, but they have decided, because the locals don't want them to push all these trucks through their area, they've decided they would do as much as they could by train, including 3,000 of those employees are coming in on a commuter train, and they're bringing in equipment on and materials on trains, and then they're putting out finished product. Like, you should see the Model Y trains. Like, you'll have like 18 white Model Ys in a row on one set of train cars, and then you'll have all the blue ones, and it's quite interesting to watch. It's like,
you can tell what the paint factory was running that day.
Yeah.
That's funny. So I suspect, Mark, that the main reason that they're going after Tesla and not VW or BMW or somebody else is that it gets media attention.
Right.
That's
they thought
the same reason.
And it gets the eyeballs.
Yeah, it gets some attention.
Going after the other guys, I don't know what facility, if this was dealer or factory, they glued themselves to the floor of the VW factory. And obviously not this same group, but another one of these groups.
And a shout out again to Brian at Futuraza. If you like this type of news, certainly subscribe to Brian's channel. He's got a lot of great little
railroad. I wasn't aware.
Great little videos that come out twice a day. Brian, that's just crazy.
Whoa.
But
keep up.
Yeah, we can't keep up with that, but Brian can. He's been doing it for weeks now. So follow Brian, and you will not have a problem finding content. That's for sure.
They love trains over there. These people they need some consistency. They sound like total crazed hypocrites at this point.
So.
Oh, yeah,
so with
right,
that,
right.
I think we will wrap up tonight's show. Let's go to Patrick, see if he's got any shout outs for the crowd. Because, of course, we can't see him, but we can still hear his shout-outs.
Is my camera not working? It looks like it's working to me.
Oh,
really? That's funny. Yeah, I thought I fixed it because the light's on, and I see actually in the browser window, I see.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, that.
In our software, it's not working, but who knows?
All right.
We'll have to check the feed after the show.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Actually, anyone in the chat room, do you see Patrick, or is Patrick not there?
I did see somebody say the ghost of Patrick. Yeah, and I wondered what he meant because I thought it was working. Because I should show you guys a screenshot. I'm there in my normal spot. Anyway, as always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. And we have a meeting coming up this Thursday. You might be able to meet Brian. He said he's going to be there. Yes, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. Check that out, where I blog about my future free from fossil fuels.
Boom.
Thanks.
Very good, very good. Casey, what do you got for us?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we chat up on Sundays at 1:10 p.m. Eastern over at youtube.com/CaseyGreen. And same sort of thing here. We talk about Tesla. We talk about green cars. We talk about whatever I feel is related or tangential. And then we gotta come back here on Monday for the Tesla Life Express. So,
sounds good.
Friday, so we'll see you there too.
Very good, very good. So I think we'll wrap up this week. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Helps a small channel like ours out, and we would really appreciate it. And with that, we will get together next time and discuss what's happening in the Tesla life.
Indeed. And thank you, Lee Moon. But we don't have any outro today because I didn't get the chance to load it up with all that's going on around here.
Stay positive. Test negative.
Bye-bye.